I'm your host, Renee Frey, America's career strategist and your ultimate hype woman when it comes to building a career and life you actually love. Every week, I pull back the curtain on what really drives career growth and fulfillment, the mindset shifts, the strategies, and the truth-telling pep talks you need to hear. Because if you're going to spend 1/3 of your life working, you deserve to work happy. Whether you're new here or a longtime listener, I'm so glad you're here. Let's get intentional, let's get inspired, and let's grow together. Tell me about yourself. 4 words that have the power to make even the most confident professionals completely blank out. You could have 20 years of experience, glowing references, and a resume that screams, "Hire me!" And still, when that question drops, your mind instantly goes blank. Here's what nobody talks about. How you introduce yourself can completely change the trajectory of your career. Most people treat introductions like small talk, something to get through before the real conversation starts. But after interviewing thousands of candidates as a recruiter, I can tell you that introduction is the conversation. In those first 30 seconds, hiring managers decide whether they're genuinely interested or mentally moving on to the next person. That is how fast it happens. Early in my career, after working at a recruiting agency for a few years, my leader changed, and suddenly I found myself reporting to a complete micromanager. You know the type. Every decision questioned, every email scrutinized, every ounce of trust gone. I went from loving my job to dreading Mondays. And that experience was a wake-up call. I realized I wanted to be somewhere I could grow, where I was trusted to lead, not controlled. So when an opportunity popped up at Medtronic, I jumped on it. It was the kind of company everyone admired, mission-driven, global impact, incredible reputation. I thought it was my chance to level up and finally find freedom and respect I had been craving. So I did what I thought would make me stand out. Polished my resume, memorized every talking point, every bullet point, built the perfect elevator pitch, had all my wins, results, numbers ready to roll. And when the interview started and they said, "Tell me about yourself," I launched right in. I went through everything I had accomplished, every success I had, thinking I was proving exactly why I belonged there. But halfway through, I noticed the interviewer's eyes glaze over and their follow-up questions got shorter. And by the end, I could feel that I lost them. A week later, the rejection email hit my inbox. As much as it stung, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because that's when I realized I had spent the whole interview trying to impress them instead of showing how I could help them. And that moment changed everything about how I communicated my value. And it's the same shift I help my clients make today. Here's what I learned. And I say this after 2 decades in recruiting. It doesn't matter how good you are, how talented you are. If you can't make yourself relevant to the person sitting across from you, you lose them. Recruiters and hiring leaders are constantly pattern matching. They're subconsciously asking, can this person solve the problems that keep me up at night? If your opening line doesn't answer that question quickly, they mentally move on. There's even data to back this up. Most hiring decisions are made in the first 7 minutes of an interview, and your first impression carries most of the weight. That's why I started studying this stuff. Behavioral psychology, branding, communication science, to understand what makes people listen. And what I found was simple. The gap between being overlooked and being sought after often comes down to the first 20 words. So fast forward 6 months from that story I just shared, I was having coffee with an executive director of HR, and she asked me, "So what is it that you do?" This time I kept it short. I help professionals get clear on their value, tell their story with confidence, and finally land the job they deserve. She leaned in. And then she said 3 words every professional dreams of hearing. "Tell me more." 15 minutes later, she invited me to interview at her company. Same experience, same background, different introduction, completely different outcome. That's when it hit me. Your introduction isn't just about breaking the ice. It's an invitation. And when someone says, "Tell me more," you've already won half the battle. So how do you create your 20-word introduction? Let's break it down. First, keep it bite-sized. We're living in an 8-second attention span world. No one is listening to a 3-minute career story. Your intro should be short, clear, and memorable. 20 words max. Think of it as your personal soundbite. Second, make it about them, not you. This is where most people go wrong. They start with credentials like, "I'm an award-winning project manager with 15 years in healthcare operations." Okay, great. But as a recruiter, I'm immediately asking, so what? Hiring leaders don't care about your history until they know how you can make their life easier. So flip it. In that example I gave you, a good 20-word intro would be, "I help hospitals streamline operations to save money and improve patient care." See the difference? The first version is all about you. The second creates value for them. And that's the shift that changes everything. Finally, here's the simple formula I teach inside my programs, and it works every single time. I help who achieve specific result without the problem they're struggling with. That's it. Short and effective. So here's a few examples of how that formula comes to life. I help engineers streamline production processes without burning out their teams. I help leaders build high-performing teams without micromanaging or burning out. I help operation managers increase efficiency without sacrificing their people or their sanity. Each one of these statements answers 3 silent questions running through every recruiter and hiring leader's head. Who do you help? What problem do you solve? And what can you do for me? So here's my challenge for you. What's your 20-word introduction? Not your job title, not your job description, your value proposition. Maybe it's time to stop reciting your work history and start communicating your impact. You don't need another certification. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You just need clarity and the right words to show what you bring to the table. Because when you can describe your value in 20 words or less, you don't just get noticed, you get remembered. And if you want to help turning that clarity into a resume, LinkedIn profile, and interview strategy that gets results, that's exactly what I teach inside the Get Hired Blueprint. Because the right words don't just open doors, they change the trajectory of your career. Until next time, stay conscious, stay inspired, and keep building the career and life you love. See you next time. Cheers.